Hello and welcome along to Sporting Life's Super Bowl 57 preview. I'm Tom Carnduff, joined by Sporting Life's expert tipsters Matt Temple-Marsh and Ross Williams to talk all things about the game. And remember, you can read about everything that we're going to talk about in more detail on sportinglife.com. Guys, let's get straight into it then. It's the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think I've got that the right way around, depending on which format you're going for. Who are we backing to win and why? Matt, we'll start with you.
Philadelphia Eagles for 3 reasons. Jalen Hurts, the Eagles defense, and Patrick Mahomes' injury will affect him more than Ross will let on.
Yeah, Ross, I was going to say, actually, I know you're not going for the Eagles. I've probably given it away a little bit there. Why the Chiefs? Why have they caught your eye?
For the man you just mentioned as your third pick, Patrick Mahomes with an injury. I thought that last week as well. I thought that in the AFC Championship game. I picked the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. I thought they'd beat the Chiefs. I thought the high ankle sprain he'd had would be too much. It wasn't. He's had a fortnight since then. Patrick Mahomes is by far the best quarterback in the NFL right now. And as we'll probably get onto, he's by far the best quarterback this great Philadelphia team, don't get me wrong. By far the best player this Philadelphia team's played all season long, despite their great record. For me, I'm going with the underdog Chiefs in this one.
We'll come to the best bets very shortly and kind of the various markets that we'll go on to and stuff like that. But on the Mahomes injury, because this is a huge aspect of the game itself, Ross, you're not too worried. Matt, can he just sit there or stand there and throw the ball around all game and it can be successful?
He can. He's probably, like Ross says, the best pocket passer in the NFL, but rushing and mobility in the pocket is such a big aspect of his game. We saw against the Bengals, he won the game, but he was grimacing when throwing. When he had to roll out the pocket, you could see he was in pain and he was limping. And the Bengals D is good, but the Eagles defense is even better. No quarterback throughout the entire season made more passes on the run outside of the pocket than Patrick Mahomes. That dropped off massively against the Jaguars and then against the Bengals. He's not going to be able to do it against this Eagles defense, which is much faster, much stronger, and just better than any of the defenses they've played throughout their playoffs run. They're going to be able to pressure Mahomes, and it's going to be a tough day for him.
Let's move on to the best kind of bets in this game then. We've touched upon the outrights and things like that. Ross, we'll go back to you kind of when it comes to the main markets itself, and we'll touch upon kind of MVP and stuff like that here. Maybe Mahomes comes into the conversation when we talk about that, but where is your eye kind of looking at when it comes to those bets?
When it comes to the bets, I'm talking about kind of, you talk about matchups. You talk about matchups in the NFL, it's all about matchups. I mean, we're going to talk about Travis Kelce quite a lot in this, I'd imagine. He's huge. He's huge, everything the Chiefs do. It ties into the Mahomes situation with his high ankle sprain. It's weird to call Travis Kelce a safety net player because he's just so dominant, but he is. He plays the tight end position. He goes over the middle a lot. That's what he is. I mean, I've got him to have his over in this game. I think it's about 79.5 at the moment, and to score a touchdown. He's had an incredible year. It just shows the levels of Mahomes that it's almost, I don't know whether it's just expected, Travis Kelce's record this year. He's having a historic year for a tight end, and no one's really talking about it too much. He's had 1,500 yards this season, including the postseason, 15 touchdowns. It's top-end wide receiver numbers, not necessarily a tight end. And in the postseason as well, he's not a player who drops off. He's played 17 games in the postseason. He's had 15 touchdowns in his career. I fully expect him to be in the end zone in this one. Look, the Eagles' defense is fantastic, as we'll continue to touch on. The Chiefs, it's the 4th-ranked offensive line in the league. They're no slouches either. Yes, it's going to be tough for Patrick Mahomes, but it's not like he's got 5 guys who don't know what they're doing in front of him. Creed Humphrey at centre's not given up a sack all season. We'll talk about another centre in this game later on who's got a similar kind of record, but they're not bad at all, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. So Patrick Mahomes, he's not going to have all the time in the world. He's not going to have as much time as he would usually have. He's not going to have to get out of the pocket. But you talk about Mahomes being the best player outside the pocket. He's also the best player in the pocket, given only 2 or 3 seconds. So he's going to use Kelce little and often. It's going to happen a lot. It happened 2 years ago in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. It wasn't quite enough on the day. Kelce's going to go off in this game, I think, and I do think that'll be enough to take Mahomes to lofty heights in this game, let's just say.
Touched on kind of the players that are going to make the biggest impact in this game. That probably ties a little bit into the MVP market. And Matt, we've spoke about Patrick Mahomes' limitations in terms of running. probably not going to be the same issue for Jalen Hurts, is it?
I think he's the best dual threat quarterback in the league. He broke the record for most touchdowns ever by a quarterback in a season with 15, on the way to the Eagles breaking the record for most rushing touchdowns in a single season ever. Obviously, you've got an extra game, which helps that out, but his rushing just sets the tone massively. I mean, his passing has grown massively year on year. You look at where he was last year in that embarrassing playoff loss to the Bucks, where he threw 2 interceptions, to the heights of this year. I mean, A.J. Brown broke this Eagles single season record for most yards in a season by a wide receiver. But his rushing is so good. The Chiefs have allowed the 5th most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. And I think that's a matchup that he can really look to exploit. It's the run-pass option, you'll probably hear RPO, that the Eagles deploy. When they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, that was crucial. But with Jalen Hurts, it takes it to another level because it's another element you can factor into the run. You can either run with your running back or Jalen Hurts as himself. So it's another option that they can confuse the defense with, and they've had so much success. And I mean, Ross loves the play. He won't love it this weekend, but the scrum that the Eagles use, it should be illegal. It will be illegal next year, I think, when they line up all the players really close together and they just push the quarterback, and Jalen Hurts scores a touchdown. And yeah, I just think he's so good. The Eagles team is so good that I have to back him to win MVP.
So we touched on it there, MVP. Ross, I know you like Mahomes, even though the injury doubts are there as well. A bigger price potential, do we think, in that market? Is there any other kind of areas that are standing out to either of you here?
If it's not going to be Jalen Hurts, I have the Eagles defense as a whole. I've backed any single player from the Eagles defense to win.
I like the clarity, just the one of them.
Yeah.
Not like the entire
unit.
Just one of that unit.
It's because it's hard to pick just one player. The entire unit is so good. I mean, names that might jump out: Hassan Reddick, been the best free agent signing by far, near enough 20 sacks, 6 forced fumbles. Last week, if that performance was in the Super Bowl, I think he would have won Super Bowl MVP. He went crazy against when the Niners were healthy. He forced that injury, it should be noted, against Brock Purdy. They have 70 sacks on the season. They're 2 away from the all-time record, and they've allowed the fewest passing yards per game in the NFL. So you've got the entire D-line is amazing, but then James Bradbury, Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he leads the league in interceptions. There's so many names to go at here that the entire unit is so good, and you can back any one of them at 9-1, which I quite like as a sneaky price there.
I like it. I'll throw one in at a bigger price. I am going Mahomes as my main pick. I think, although Cooper Kupp did win it last year as a wide receiver, it can differ sometimes, and I know I'm expecting Kelsey to have a big game, obviously my tip, but generally when the receiver goes for a big day, it's because the quarterback's also got those yardage as well. So I will go Mahomes, especially with the prices outside of Hurts at the moment. For a bigger price, I'm just going to throw one in there. Down the defensive route as well. I mean, you will disagree with this because I know you've got something coming up. Chris Jones is a game wrecker. Chris Jones is an absolute game wrecker for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'd consider that at around 40-50-1. He had a big old day against the Bengals, against a very good Bengals team as well. Got his first postseason sack last year. You're going to tell me why he's probably not going to get a sack, I'd imagine. But if Chris Jones has his way, he'd be one I'd look at around 50-1 as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it brings us nicely onto the best specials bets. Of course, there's a huge range of markets across the bookmakers for this game, from absolutely everything that you could want to bet on. You can get involved with it, from Gatorade colour to national anthem. So the actual game itself, you touched upon a player there, and I know Matt has included this in one of his best bets, which probably nicely brings us also onto that Kelsey brother matchup and playing into that Eagles defence and that. Where kind of catches your eye when it comes to those specials bets, the prop markets and stuff like that?
The brothers, I've got to go Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey together. I'll lead off with Travis Kelsey on what Ross has said. I fully agree with all of that. In the playoffs so far, he's at a 31% target share. He is an absolute monster, and he is the safety blanket for Mahomes. When the play develops, he manages to just lose his coverage and find space in the open field. So I really like Travis Kelsey there. And you think of all the receivers that they've got: Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman. They all left the game early against the Bengals. Hardman's now on the IR. Obviously everybody's healthy for this game. They're going to say they're healthy for this game because it's a Super Bowl. You want to play in it, but they're not going to be at 100%. So I think Travis Kelsey, to get his yards, to get his receptions, I love that. And then Jason Kelce, I think he's the best centre, definitely in the NFL right now. Maybe, there's an argument, one of the best centres ever. He hasn't allowed a quarterback's hit since week 12 of 2020. Ross is thinking Chris Jones is going to have an amazing game. He is not going to get a sack. This entire offensive line for the Eagles is so good. Jordan Mailata, Landerson Dickerson, Jason Kelce, Isaac Seumalo, Lane Johnson is an elite unit. And Chris Jones in the interior, you talk about how he's a game wrecker. That was his first postseason sack last week. He got two against the sorry Bengals offensive line. The Eagles is a massive step above that. So yeah, I'm pairing Chris Jones to have a sack, no, and then Travis Kelce to hit his receptions and yards line, and you can pair that up at about 5-1.
My one counter argument to that, I don't want to go against your bet too much, but those two sacks, I mean, he did have 15 in the regular season for a defensive tackle, which is unheard of, and you know he was first in the league for that. They did come against the left guard and the left tackle. He slides all across that defensive line. Chris Jones is not just a straight interior guy, so his matchup with Jason Kelce will be a lot of the game, but not all of the game.
I think the line's good enough.
Maybe so. But Chris Jones is a very, very good player, my friend.
So Matt's, just to recap then, that's Travis Kelce, 8+ receptions. The receiving yards line's about 79.5 at the time of recording. And then obviously Chris Jones not to record a sack in that game. Best price of 5-1. Ross, over to you then on the specials. You've, of course, done the specials preview on sportinglife.com. Matt's are included in his Keys to Victory article. There's a number of kind of options that you've touched upon in the specials preview, but where would you say has really caught your eye when it comes to that market?
Yeah, I can give you a whistle-stop tour of the main ones, really. I think one that I really like, and there is a classic, which we'll get onto at the end, which we love every year. But
people are only tuning in for the classic. That's what they want.
I'll start with the game-specific ones for this particular game. Both teams to score 10 points in each half is one that you'd usually stay away from. I think in a game like this, you usually would. But these are special teams. These are two very, very special teams. It's the highest scoring team in the AFC, the highest scoring team in the NFC. They've averaged 10 points a half all season long. Both of these teams. It's literally on trend. And I don't see how this game can't be just an aggressive war against the two teams that match up differently. Obviously, Philadelphia much more with the run. Mahomes obviously going to do a lot through the air. But there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I don't see how there can't be a lot of points in this game, especially if it's going to be a contest, and I certainly believe it will be. The blueprint is kind of there. It's a very difficult blueprint to follow, but the blueprint is there for the Chiefs. Basically, if the Eagles allow less than 300 yards in the game, they win. They're 12-0 when they've conceded less than 300 yards in a game. But they have lost 3 games this year. In all those occasions, they conceded more. Dak Prescott scored 40 points on them, for example. When you go aggressive, when you do put the ball in the air, that can happen. That scores points quickly. The Chiefs probably the best team we've ever seen at scoring points quickly. So I think both teams to score 10 points in each half, about 10-3, 3-1, is really, really nice. On the same vein, really, a 55-yard reception in the game, which is asking for a lot. It's a highlight play, don't get me wrong. Both teams are tailor-made for that kind of thing at 5-2. Again, it's going to be very, very aggressive, I think. It's a staple of the KC offense. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, for example, made a career on that in Green Bay. They've got a lot of speed in that team. They're more than capable of doing that. Kelce could do it himself, we've seen it before. Whereas for Philadelphia as well, A.J. Brown, an incredible deep threat. And the way the Chiefs play, I think the Chiefs' defense is going to have to shift a little bit. They really like double covering the main guy. They love double covering wide receiver 1. They tried it against Chase last week against the Bengals. When you've got Devontae Smith on the other side and Dallas Goedert over the middle, I think they're going to have to pivot a little bit. There are going to be occasions where they're going to have to single A.J. Brown.
Pick your poison for the Chiefs. No team has had more man coverage this year faced more man coverage this year than the Philadelphia Eagles, and Devontae Smith spoke on this in the previous days. It's because they're so scared of the run, and they don't want the clock to evaporate. That's why they are leaving these elite wide receivers in single coverage, which plays into that lovely.
Yeah, I think to start with, early on, I think the Chiefs will give up the run a little bit. Yeah. I think they'll sit deep. They won't mind that too much. But as the game develops, I think Brown will probably get his opportunities later on. And the one we discussed, the opening kickoff. You can't ignore the opening kickoff. We tipped this originally 2 years ago.
Yes.
In a game featuring the Chiefs, of course. The opening kickoff, for it to be a touchback, no, it will not be a touchback, I do believe. The context is incredible. We kind of stumbled across it a couple of years ago. Essentially, for those who don't know, the game ball that is used in the Super Bowl, as obviously it's an item of memorabilia straight away, They keep it as pristine as possible. It's pretty much out of the packaging. They put it on the tee, they kick it away because it's shipped straight to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. In general circumstances, the staff of either team gets half an hour, 40 minutes with the game balls, which is a crazy thing. And in football, for example, that would be bizarre. But they don't sand it down and do various things with the ball, therefore making it more streamlined. This is the least aerodynamic this ball will ever be. When it's kicked off the tee, it generally takes a couple of yards off the kick, that kind of thing. And the record, the trend kind of speaks for itself. It's generally run out. It's generally run out the end zone. It's an aggressive ball game anyway. One of these teams who want to get on the front foot. So I love the opening kickoff to be returned. Doesn't have to be returned for a touchdown. Just return the kick. Just take it out of the end zone. It's better than the coin toss, isn't it?
The last 3 Super Bowls you've gone for this, and I think it was 2-1. Was that correct?
We're
2 years ago.
We missed last year, but we're 2-1.
So it's definitely something that you've been kind of banging the drum for a while, and that, as you said there, simply is straight from the off, the team receiving it and running it out and trying to start on that aggressive front foot. We'll recap kind of the predictions and that shortly, but when it comes to kind of specials, the one that caught my eye, I think it's Sky Bet, 3+ players to attempt to pass 6-4.
I like that a lot.
Are we getting on board with that, do we think, for a Super Bowl? It's going to be a bit wild. Mahomes' injury as well, you never know, maybe he'll need a little play or two where he has to sit out for obviously to recover. Agree, yes or no? We on board with that one?
So.
I like it I don't know if the Chiefs will. You've got Patrick Mahomes, why would you let anyone else throw? The Eagles, Nick Sirianni, the head coach, got something about him. He's got a bit of a streak, he's got a bit of an ego. If he's going to win this game, if he wants to win this game, he'll want a moment. I think there's an element because the last time the Philadelphia won Super Bowl, the Philly special, Trey Burton for a pass, obviously the famous throw to Nick Foles. I think Nick Sirianni's got enough ego to try something like that, and I think AJ Brown's got a little bit of previous in terms of throwing a ball. I like that. I like that a lot, yeah.
Well, I think we had, about 12, 15 players attempt to pass in the Eagles' last game, didn't they? Because of that ridiculous 49ers injury luck that they did have in that one. So when it comes to the bet builders, then we'll quickly summarise. Travis Kelce, I think we're all in agreement. Overs.
Yes.
Would we be comfortable backing him touchdown?
I think so.
I'll throw that in, yeah. 15
and 17 in postseason. It's a pretty remarkable record for a tight end.
Jalen Hurts is going to hit over rushing, do we think?
Definitely rush attempts, definitely. I think it's about 10.5 rushing attempps, which he's done in his last few games, and yeah, I like that a lot.
As I say, the Chiefs will want to slow down the Eagles scoring. I think they will give up the run early doors in the hope that obviously if the Eagles start scoring quickly with the run, things will change. But I think for at least for the first quarter or two, they will allow Hurts a little bit of room. So yeah, I like that.
So last time I looked, it had just been shortened slightly. 18.5 Mahomes' rushing line.
Take the under on that.
I'd go under.
Definitely. Yeah, this high ankle sprain, I discussed how he was struggling in his past 2 weeks. You look at the last 2 Super Bowls, his stats, it goes under the radar how athletic Patrick Mahomes is. He really, he might not rip off these massive rushes, but he will pick up first downs often. His last 2 Super Bowls, 14 carries, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was a massive factor in those games. These past 2 games, just 6 carries for 16 yards total. He's not going to be keen to carry the ball much, and fair enough, he might have had an extra week of rest, but he's still not 100%. So yeah, take the under on this, definitely.
I'll caveat that he won those 2 games.
And National Anthem, 207.
Of course.
Ross, I know you've touched upon this, and you've been listening to Chris Stapleton, I believe it is, just continuously. You wouldn't stop going on about him for weeks now. Under or over 207?
Huge country music fan. Chris Stapleton, 2 minutes 7 seconds. The line, it's really big. That's one of the highest lines. I hate that I know this. It's one of the highest lines in recent years. It's only gone over 2 minutes 7 seconds 6 times in history, I believe. And interestingly, a lot of the US-based bookmakers, the line opened at 2 minutes 7 when Chris Stapleton was announced 2-3 weeks ago. A lot of them have shaved it down to 2 minutes and 2 seconds. They've already cut 5 seconds off. That's not the case over here. With that in mind, I like the under in that. 127. Count to 127 for a long time.
Don't worry, I've done it the past few years knowing that you've touched on this anthem. I had my phone out, and as soon as that first note goes, bam, I'm hitting play and I'm tracking it. Right, guys, let's finish off then. Let's curve all the way back to the start. I want a winner and a margin of victory as well. Matt, we'll start with you.
I've gone Eagles 27, Chiefs 17. I've gone for a very big 10-point win. It might not be that massive margin of win, but I'm confident in the Eagles Specifically, I'm confident in the double result. You can get that 3-2, Eagles to win both halves. They are the highest scoring first half team by some margin, I think 3 points. They come out of the game fast. There was that streak early in the season. In the second quarter, they were racking up points like crazy. And yeah, I just think they're so talented in so many different ways. They've got a reliable run game, which the Chiefs cannot boast, that can whittle down the clock. And the pass game is so good. As I touched on earlier, the Chiefs have to pick their poison on what they want to try and defend, and that opens them up to be decimated through either the pass or the run. And the Eagles just have so much talent that, yeah, I'm backing Jalen Hurts.
Interesting. I respectfully disagree, but that's fine. I believe the over-under is around 50 points in this game as well.
50 and a half last time I looked.
You're obviously touching the under. I'd probably go over that. I think my prediction is going to be 31 to the Chiefs, 27 to the Eagles. I think a 4-point margin, something like that. I touched on it earlier, the kind of blueprint. 300 yards. You need 300 yards. The Kansas City Chiefs have averaged 407 yards per game. It's a league lead. Certainly in terms of the passing element of that. They are capable of doing this. The Chiefs, it's a very difficult team to beat the Eagles, but they are capable of doing it. And the final point I'll make, just on the Eagles, and it's one of these things, they've got incredible defensive stats. They do. 77 sacks, I think it is, including postseason and stuff like that. Historic levels. The strength of schedule is an element of this. I touched on it right at the start. They've not faced anything like Patrick Mahomes just yet, even with the high ankle sprain. They've only faced 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks this year. One of them was Kirk Cousins. It was week 2. It was a prime-time game, Monday Night Football. Everyone knows what happens to Kirk Cousins when it's night-time. It's not good. The other one was Andy Dalton with that Saints team. The Saints won that game. I just don't think they've been battle-tested in the same way the Kansas City Chiefs have. Mahomes has been through the mire. Mahomes has been the Super Bowl injured. He threw 49 times that day, I believe. He's been there. He's been in the heat of the battle. It's his 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. I'm going to go with the team that I know is not going to fall under pressure and get the job done. So, yeah, 31-27, big high-scoring game. I hope it's that good. But I'm going to go Chiefs win.
We take comfort in that one of you is going to be right.
Yes.
We hope, unless some freak incident happens and then that's not the case. But Matt, Ross, thank you very much. And remember, you can head to sportinglife.com to read all about Matt and Ross's best bets and much more for Super Bowl 57 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs.